Good evening everyone, my name is Anthony. As you may have all seen before in 2 spoken word appearances. I was absent last February because I was a bit tied up due to an upcoming Vatican trip. But just recently I've been on holidays, been to Oslo, the Vatican, and just came back from Belarus. But when I was in Oslo a few months ago, I met this American lady. And she'd been living in Oslo as an exile for 14 years, and she hadn't seen her family in a very long time. And she told me that her expat fans and friends were all like family. And so this made me realize back to a time 10 years ago. I was working as a kitchen porter in a Mexican restaurant in Western Sydney, in a room the size of the stage. And then a month into the job, which I really hated, the 2 men came into my life. They were brothers, Stephen and Andrew. And I met Stephen one day at work when I was talking to him about meeting Henry Rollins. And he said to me, yeah, I met Henry Rollins many years ago, and he's a great guy, and he's very smart. And we just started a love affair amongst music our fans. So Stephen would give me some of his hardcore and metalcore music, and I never really liked that. And then I introduced him to a lot of death metal and thrash metal and Dream Theater music and prog music. And so we became really good workmates and stuff, even though I had a really hard time working in a hellhole, which was very claustrophobic. And then one day, I remember on my 23rd birthday, Stephen, he gave me a glass of Coca-Cola and he said to me, shh, I just slipped some Kahlua in your Coca-Cola, Martin. So it was kind of funny. But then tragedy struck later that night when Stephen was involved in a car accident and he was in hospital for a period of 2 weeks. Just crashed his car under the influence of alcohol. And which kind of really affected me a lot at work because I was having panic attacks. I was hating my job, my manager wouldn't let me work in the bar because he was a bastard. And then so I decided to visit him in hospital one day, and the first thing I said to Steve, I said, Steve, I know you've had some operations and stuff, but is it okay if I make you laugh? Because you don't want to go to the hospital and make somebody laugh and break a bone like that. And then so after 2 months away from the job, Stephen came back, and it was such a relief to have Stephen back in the workforce. He would always call me Metal Martin, and I would call him Metal Steve. And we did a lot of things together. We'd go to the pubs, we went and saw Slipknot. But then one day, Stephen, he left Tequila's on Main, and he got a day job because the bar life was really affecting his work life, and the hospitality industry was also affecting my life at the time. So Andrew, his brother, was still on the other hand, and I always used to call him Tub, a name that stuck to him through most of his life because he was Tubby. And so one day, on the 28th of March 2009, I was really fed up with this head chef. He wasn't even qualified to be a chef, just pushing me around, complaining about me trying things. I tore off my apron and a hat, and I just said, I quit, I don't want to wash dishes anymore, I'd rather have a pension. And I walked out of my job. And then so, it was sad not being able to work with Andrew anymore. It was quite sad to be unemployed. But then I always had my friendship with Stephen. I would always send him a message, give him a phone call. And then later on at the end of the year, Stephen just stopped replying to my messages, stopped answering the phone call. And I felt really sad because I just broken up with a friendship with this guy I'd known since primary school for 12 years. And then one day in 2010, he said to me, oh Martin, I'm really sorry, I forgot your able and order and stuff, and I've been so busy and all. Oh, why don't you come to this pub and celebrate my 30th birthday? And so on his 30th birthday, I felt really reconnected, that he was interested in what I wanted to do in life. And then tragedy struck again on the anniversary of the day I quit Tequilas in Maine. His younger brother, Matty, passed away at the age of 26. And going to a funeral, in my opinion, really sucks, because I had to pick up a rose, walk to the coffin and place it on Matty. And I thought to myself, why isn't me the person in this coffin? Or why am I not the person in jail like right now? So it was heartbreaking for those guys to lose their brother Matty. But Stephen and Andrew were always going to be like brothers to me. I didn't get to see Andrew for another 5 years until one time I was in Sydney walking around, check my Facebook, and Andrew says I was at this bar, so I go to the bar and I see Andrew, and it had been 5 long years. His voice had changed, he was now in his 30s, but he was still the same, like a tub as I remembered. In 2012, Stephen and his wife Vanessa, they moved to Winnipeg in Canada, which was hard for me to lose a friend living in Sydney. It was hard for me, for my friends, to move to Canada, because I knew it would take me many years of savings, or maybe 6 months of savings to go travel there. But then 4 years later, Stephen and Vanessa, they came back to Sydney, and they saw me for a day. They saw me for lunch, which was so nice, because it had taken 4 years to see those guys again. And then, 12 months down the track, I was living in the UK. I was living in Birmingham, and Stephen sent me a message saying, "Hey Martin, I'm going to be in London for the next few days. You want to meet up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I just came back from Guernsey, and I was staying in London for a few days, and I was keeping my hopes up of meeting Joan Collins. So what I did was, I went outside the movie theatre in Mayfair, and I was hanging outside the barriers from 12 noon. And I said to Stephen, "Oh, I'm sorry Steve, we're going to not have to meet at a pub today. You're going to have to meet me at Curzon Cinema. It's across the road from the Saudi Arabian Embassy." And so Stephen takes an hour out of his London life to come out and hang out with me. We talked about the past year, I talked about his family back home, I talked about my family back home, and we had a photograph together, and then about 2 hours later I met Joan Collins. So it was quite impressive on International Women's Day to, one, meet my friend Metal Steve after 12 months absence, and then two, meet Joan Collins. And then a year later, Metal Steve is back in London again. He's back in London, and I go out to meet him in a pub in Shepherd's Bush, and I'm so excited to see him again because it's been a year and a day since we last met. But in this time frame of a year, since I've been living in this country, nobody related to me by blood in Middlesbrough has ever came down to visit me. So I remember in Oslo, sitting down with my friend, I'm saying, if I've got friends in Derby, and I've got a cousin in Guernsey, a cousin in Cambridge, a friend from Perth, a friend from Canada, if they've all taken time out of their life and travelled long distances to visit me, why doesn't anybody in Middlesbrough ever visit me? So then I realised to myself, well, Martin, you're doing a good job with your travelling once a month. Keep going, keep taking 3 days out of your London life and go to a new different country. Because sometimes I'd rather be sitting on a plane at Beirut rather than being on a 6-hour bus to Middlesbrough. And I always remember this, you can't pick your friends, you can't pick your family, but then your friends will always become like families to you. So always keep that in mind. For more stories, check out my website at overlandmetalhead.com. And for the funny side, if you Google image search Dream Theatre Climate Oak, I'm #1. Thank you very much.